Hello, everyone. Today we are going to talk about an issue in family law, a divorce by publication in Georgia. What is it? Who can do it? How long does it take? My name is Raluca. I provide family law, estate planning, and immigration services to my clients, and I have an office in Lawrenceville, Georgia. Nina Clear, my marketing and office manager, is here with me, and we thank you for all your likes, shares, and comments as they help others to see our videos.
To remind everybody, we want them to remember that this is information for Georgia only. And while much of what we share is very broad and may be able to be applied across the United States, anything to do with family law is only based on Georgia law.
Only Georgia law, yes, that's right.
Okay. And we've talked about divorce before in some of your videos. And divorce by publication is one way to get divorced in Georgia, right?
Yes and no. It isn't really a way that you should use unless you have to. It can only be used in very limited circumstances, though.
Okay, can you explain a little bit more about that?
Sure. Before I do that, I wanted to talk about something we have discussed previously. In Georgia, you can be divorced under no fault grounds for divorce. That means both spouses agree that they don't get along and they want their marriage to be ended legally. However, there are also at fault reasons, and one of them is abandonment or desertion. When filing for a divorce by publication, you can either use the no fault grounds or the at fault grounds for the reason.
And if you leave your spouse because of abuse, this can allow you to use the at-fault reason, which is constructive desertion. Desertion. Sorry, that's hard to say, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so do you have to list a reason for the divorce in your paperwork?
Yes, even if it is a no fault, you have to state the reason.
But why would you want an at-fault reason?
At-fault reasons can be used by the judge when determining property distribution, child custody, or alimony. Also, some prefer that for religious reasons.
Okay, so tell us about divorce by publication.
Sure. This is used when you cannot find your spouse. For example, they have moved away and you have no idea where they are.
So it isn't something you start out wanting to do.
Well, you may, depending on the last time you saw your spouse and if you know where they are. I have had clients whose spouses have left the country and they have no idea how to contact them and haven't had contact for years. It might help to explain that with any lawsuit, the law requires that a person who is being sued must have the paperwork delivered to them personally. How that is usually done is a sheriff or a private process server, not a party to the case, delivers the documents in person to the other party. However, if you cannot find the person, service is acceptable if it is done by publication.
So does the person have to be missing?
No, you may also have a spouse who, for whatever reason, doesn't respond to the divorce papers that are filed in court. Sometimes they will avoid service, so the person you hire to deliver the papers cannot do so.
And in order to file for divorce in Georgia, you have to be a resident of Georgia, right?
Yes, you do. You must have lived in Georgia for at least 6 months, and you have to file in the county where you live.
Okay, and then how is the divorce publicized?
Every county in Georgia has a legal publication, a newspaper. When you file for a divorce or after, if you don't get a response from your spouse, you can ask the judge to issue an order that the legal newspaper will publish a notice of your request for divorce.
Do you need to pay the newspaper?
You do. That fee is in addition to what you must pay for the court filing.
And then what happens?
After the newspaper publishes the notice for the required length of time, 4 times in 60 days, that is. They file a paper with the court stating that they have filed a notice in the local paper as required. And then you can request that the judge grant your divorce
So
after that.
Does it take a long time?
I guess the answer is relative to your situation. You must meet the statutory requirement for waiting for a certain time between filing and the divorce, as well as meet the requirements for how long the notice must be published. So due to this publishing requirement time, at a minimum, it takes about 3 months after the first paper is filed with the court for the final order to be signed. So to make it clear, a judge can sign the order 61 days after the first published notice, but usually it takes a few days for the newspaper to submit their affidavit that they published it, and then a few days for the judge to sign the order. So don't expect it to be granted on the 62nd day, usually.
And then are there any special requirements with a divorce by publication that are different from other divorces?
The law states that you have lived separately for a substantial amount of time.
And what is a substantial amount of time?
That is really up to each judge. I would say at least a few months, and definitely you should not be living together.
Well, because then you would know where they were too, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
You cannot say you don't know where they are. Yes.
And anything else about a divorce by publication?
You also must done your due diligence search for your spouse.
And what does that mean?
A strict explanation is not provided in the law, but you have to put some effort into finding them. You will have to submit a sworn affidavit that you search for your spouse and you could not find them.
Okay, can you tell us some ways that you would say in your sworn affidavit that you did search?
Sure. You may ask the family of your spouse or mutual friends. You could go to their work or their last known address. You may search online. All of those things would show that you tried to locate them, but you could not.
And I know that some people suggest self-help by doing a divorce yourself. Do you recommend that in this situation?
It is always a personal choice. However, since a divorce by publication has some additional steps, and you wouldn't want your divorce set aside because you didn't follow all the rules, I do recommend at least consulting with an attorney if you feel this applies in your situation. Thank you everyone for watching. We really appreciate all your support. See you tomorrow.